Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. Um, I'm Dylan, and joining me as always is Ben. And this
Hello.
week, uh, uh, and this week, Ben, you said we're gonna pull a Simpsons. I believe is what you said.
Yeah, we have to wait till the World Series is over and we're into November, and then we can go ahead and just do the final thing of our Halloween season.
So
It's like
we're doing the.
you never noticed that? Not a big Simpsons guy?
Uh, I mean, I never. I'm not like loyal to the Simpsons. I've watched like the first one or two seasons because I was like, I'm gonna watch it all. I didn't make it all the way through, and I don't think I ever made it to like a Treehouse of Horror episode. But I did always like when I was a kid. I still remember seeing all the Treehouse of Horror commercials, especially when you watch like Sunday Night Football and stuff, or watching the lines on Fox, and then you'd get all the Simpsons ads.
Yeah, yeah. So their big thing is Fox always has the World Series. So normally by Halloween, they were still in the middle of the series. So unless like it was just a sweep and it ended right away, odds were that if there was a Sunday night game going on, then there was no like episode being released. So usually it would be into November, and then The Simpsons would do their Halloween special. And it became like even kind of an inside joke that they would make fun of themselves for.
Okay. Um, so we're keeping. I said spooky is a mindset, not a time frame. So today we're doing the. We did 2024 film last week. We're doing a 2023 Late Night with the Devil um, horror film that I think it's like a Shutter original, but you can now
Yes.
watch it on you can watch it on Hulu as a recording, and I think AMC Plus. Um, but to kick things off and get everybody in the right mood, we're going to go to this week's cocktail, the Devil's Night cocktail from Gordon Ramsay Restaurants. Um, it is 50 milliliters of Bacardi Gold, two fresh blackberries, four sage leaves, two orange wheel slices, and 15 milliliters of maple syrup. You are going to muddle the Bacardi, one blackberry, and one orange wheel, and the sage leaves and maple syrup all together uh, in the bottom of your glass. And then you're going to push the, you're going to top it off with crushed ice, and then you're going to use your one little blackberry and your orange wheel slice as garnishes. And you can just sip on that with a straw. It's I feel like it's going to be a little Bacardi rum heavy. Uh, it's I like to make my old fashions with like maple syrup, and it helps a little bit, but it doesn't like completely cut that like bourbon flavor. So I feel like you're you're gonna get some blackberry flavor. You're gonna get some sage, like a little sage, a little orange, but I still think it's gonna be a little Bacardi heavy. This is like a highball drink, um, which doing my number crunches, I don't understand how. I don't know how you're gonna get that much beverage from this. Just looking at the measurements, but feels like it'd be more of a rocks glass drink. But uh,
Yeah, yeah. 50 mil. The only other liquid is 15 for the syrup. So like
yeah,
you're
that's
not.
that's not even 3 ounces. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that ice is doing a lot of work.
Yeah, that's the when people on TikTok were like, "Oh, I've hacked the bar. You just get the drink with
With
less
no
ice."
ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. My drink's almost empty. Yeah. Huh. Crazy.
Yeah, it turns out they weren't cutting your drink with ice. Those are just how the measurements work. And if you want a cold drink, you need a lot of ice.
Or, uh, yeah, keeps it cold, but also, it helps water it down and extend the drink, kind of. So, you know, you don't
Balances
have
it a
to.
little bit.
Yeah, you don't have to order like 4 of them because you drank the first one in 2 seconds.
Yeah. And if you want to make a Devil's Night cocktail, you can hit up the show notes, hit the Casker links, and get some delivered directly to your door. Um, and send us a picture over at Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Tag us and let us know what you think of the Devil's Night cocktail. And you can watch, as we said earlier, you can watch Late Night with the Devil on Hulu or AMC Plus as of recording. Check it out because we are going to spoil it. That's how these things work. And Ben, I was going to say, last not last episode, but the episode before. Check this out. Two
Hey!
arms. We got two
Woo!
arms on our a chair again.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! How about that?
Yeah, Timu special. So
And we really need to get a chair sponsor here.
yeah,
Really
something
got to get that
base.
working.
Um, but Late Night with the Devil is a 2023 found footage horror film. Um, I was excited for this one. Um, I had seen, trailers. I'd seen people talking about it. Um, so I was very excited for this one, like I was last week with I saw the TV Glow. Um, it's directed by Cameron Cairns and Colin Cairns. Um, it's written by Colin and Cameron. It's the story of a live television broadcast in 1977 that goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. It stars David Dasmalkian, Laura Gordon, Ian Bliss, Faisal Bazi, Ingrid Torelli, uh, Reese Aturi, Georgina Haig, and that's about. I probably went way too far down the list, if I'm being honest.
I mean, yeah, in all honesty, this is it's honestly, and I don't want to dive too much into it right now, but it's kind of a low budget movie. I mean,
Yeah,
David Desmalkian is usually not the leading man actor in a project. I mean, he's no normally I I don't want to put him in that category, but I think of him more as a character actor.
yes, definitely.
He's towards the
I
top of
mean,
current character actors, but he's a character actor.
yeah. I mean, I think honestly, I could see this being his Willem Dafoe esque like transition because I feel like for the longest time Willem Dafoe was kind of that like character actor. You're gonna see him and stuff, and then I mean, now he's like the leading man and most things. I mean, a lot of the stuff I feel like and I think this is the trademark of a good character actor is that they kind of get lost in the part. Um, but yeah, no, I was very pleasantly surprised with how well David Dastmalchian did in this movie. Um, I was like, all right, let's see. I, uh, I've seen quite a few things with him in it. And I mean, when he was in the Suicide Squad, like his character was so fucking funny. Um, and I was excited for this because of him partly. But then also just the premise I think is very interesting to me. Um, and this is something that we can talk about if we want to keep going. Or um, I was just gonna say that the movie's a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. It's a 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This one was one where I saw the trailer, but I didn't know that it was like found footage. Honestly, um, going in, I was kind of like, oh, like it's just gonna be like set in this time frame, um, and be interesting, yeah, whatever. But once it started and we get like this like lore background, like that it's a documentary, And we get all this background into David or Jack Delroy, sorry. Um, and then like it goes into the actual like transmission broadcast, and it's like just straight up like a late night show. I really enjoyed that. I like that it was kind of poking fun out of it, but also like true to like the late night shit. Like you get the like monologue with four jokes about like pop culture stuff, and you know, with the documentary background, like Jack is trying to oh fuck, I can't think of the dude's name. Who's the big late night guy? Johnny Carson. Like he's
Yeah.
trying to take down Johnny Carson and be number one in the ratings, but he can never surpass him. And uh, I really liked the setup for the premise of this movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed the periodness of it, the whole kind of period piecey feel of it being this 70s thing. I also loved the like you, I think I watched the trailer just when we were talking about what we were going to do. Um and I'd seen the trailer was cut and looked very grainy and film, you know, very 70s esque. I did not realize it was going to be a mix between like the live recording, but then also kind of the cut in documentary style of the behind the scenes. I thought that was a really cool, just kind of a really cool way to do things. And I like the fact with this too that the way that they set it up like that also made it feel like it was not a dredge or a long movie.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it
so much
almost made it feel
exposition
like it was like
happens.
you get this kind of intro, you get the hour, which is the you know the scenes that were aired mixed with the commercial break quick cuts in the black and white behind the scenes style, and then you're right back into the airing of the show, and then at the end it's just like, and that was it. There's really not a lot of even kind of cleanup, it feels like, at the end. It's just kind of like, well, this is the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's just like so much exposition. I feel like that happens in those like interstitial back, like when they're cut to commercial. Um, that it's very important to the movie. I think because I was kind of thinking, I was like, ah, like it's weird that it does that, but I do think like it is very important because so much story is told in that part between like Jack and Leo, Jack and June, and even like Gus and Carmichael, or Jack and Gus, or Leo and Gus. Like you're getting a lot of that, like what's happening behind the scenes. Oh, like we're off the rundown. The rundown's different. What's changed? Like what's my um, and yeah, I think it's very important to the film that those pieces are in there, because it you know it does give all this backstory. And one thing that I think I want to talk about, just because it's on top of my head right now, um, but I feel like, and I like that there was this callback to it. But when we're doing the setup of the documentary piece at the very beginning, we're talking about Jack Delroy and his rise to fame and all this, and then we hear about is it the Grove? That's like his little group, right?
Yeah.
This like Illuminati, almost like cult men's group thing, called the Grove, that Jack is a member of. Um, and I wish we got a little more about it or of it, because like
Yeah.
it.
I think kind of one of the reasons that they kind of don't is because it's so intently based on a real thing. So maybe
Yeah.
they were just expecting that people would go and look into it after the fact. I don't know. Do you think, and I'm sorry, I know this is completely derailing it. Do you think that's a thing filmmakers kind of think about now when writing and making their movies? It's like, we don't need to do a ton of backstory because if there's something that's not going to be understood, we know someone's going to look into it and figure it out. Like there'll be some sort of like, you know, oh, it's an allusion to this real life, or like trying to think of examples. I don't think it necessarily happens in this per se, but like once upon a time, uh, in Hollywood. Like, do you think Tarantino? I know Tarantino doesn't, just from hearing him talk, but like, do you think if someone else had made that movie, if there were some of the references that he's just like, they would have just been like, we don't have to like completely elaborate on it because the audience, if they're confused, will do the research.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I feel like one of the things Tarantino does, though, like as opposed to this, is like Tarantino he'll take something that actually happened and then do like a complete 180 and like kind of flip it
Oh,
on its head and like
yeah,
go completely against what you expect to happen, whether that's
no,
for the good or the bad. Like that's one of the things like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where it was like we got to the end of the movie and I'm like, oh, the,
yeah,
the
this is like
these
an
murders are
alternate
about to
universe.
happen, and then it's like,
Yeah,
oh shit, well, yeah.
well, and I know
Same with
the other thing
uh,
Tarantino does. Tarantino was a bad example because, like, you look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like Tarantino, to the fact of originally he was going to have when Leonardo DiCaprio's character gets cast as like the bad guy in the episode of this TV show or whatever. Uh, I listened to a podcast with Tarantino. And he's like, "Well, I was originally just going to have him be cast as like a Batman villain." It's like, but the issue is the movie takes place in I can't remember what year, and by that point, Batman was already done. So
yeah,
chronologically, we couldn't have done that. And it's like no one would have put that much thought into piecing that together. No one would have cared. But he's like, no, it can't be that. It has to be a show that was going on during this time period. So like that was not my best example, but I'm just thinking of like, movies where they make allusions to things, especially based on like real life, where you're like, I understand kind of like it's an exclusive men's club, but like what the hell is this thing about? And then you can actually Google it and be like, oh, this is what the Grove is. This is, Bohemian. And I looked it up just real quick. It's Bohemian Grove. It was
yeah.
literally like, I mean, basically for an elite men's retreat. Uh, I think I read that there were only ever like three women. Uh, like a long time, one of the longtime staff members, and like I can't remember what the other. Um, oh, four honorary members, hostesses, or was one of the hostesses a poet, an actress, and a writer. But they were all honorary. None of them were actually like official members.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, and I see that the Grove's rituals were described as falling between occult and kitsch, including frequent images of owls. Yeah, dude, rich people are so fucking weird. Like, why can't people just be normal? You know, like fucking Army Hammer's like, you know what? I got so much money in the world. Let me.
I'm a.
I'm kind of
I
interested in
kind of want to
eating
just
people.
try it. I just want to try it.
Yeah, you know, like I don't know, man. I don't see it. You know, just I don't know. I want to say I wouldn't be that kind of person, but who knows? Maybe if I ever came across money, I'd be a cannibal occult person.
Yeah, I'd like to say, I wouldn't be, but who am I to say? World may never know. This podcast is going to get huge. People are going to be like, you eating people yet? Did you do it? You part of a men's club?
Just yeah, the part where it's like we got this rich man Illuminati group. there is some callback to it, like when um, Lily uh, has the like devil come through her and is like, "We've met before in the tall trees." You kind of like get somewhat of a callback there. Later, towards the end of the film, Minnie, I think is what they call her, right? That's the nickname for Madeline.
Yeah.
Um, like Madeline says something along the lines of like, you know, like everything requires sacrifice, and like that was part of the thing was for you to get your success, like you had to give up me, kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more of that, and just more of like more closure to the movie. I know we kind of talked about this last week with I Saw the TV Glow, um, but like I feel like this movie, it's good. I really enjoyed it. It's not necessarily like it's a little unsettling, a little spooky. Um, and then like once the end hits and this climax happens, there's like crazy shit going on. It's super wild. But is it like scary? Do we get closure about like anything? Not really. It kind of gets this like avant-garde ending where no, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
You took the words straight from my brain of how I've been thinking about this movie the entire time.
Oh, okay.
One, I didn't find it to be like terrifyingly scary. It was spooky
Yeah.
and eerie, but there was no like, and not that it needed to have like jump scares or anything, but there was no real moments where I was like, oh shit. Like nothing that really made me like feel super scared or anything like that. And yes, the exact same feeling where it just feels like we get into all of this and then it ends and there's really no explanation as to what the happened. Like, it could have been one of those things where it ends in the documentary style or ends like the footage and then goes back to the documentarian or whatever, giving us just kind of a brief wrap up. There's
Yeah.
nothing. It's just like him surrounded by dead bodies, and it's like, all right, cool, the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
Okay,
what? Where? Like, okay, so all he imagined all this other stuff, and this is drove him to kill Lily. All right, I guess. Like, I don't know. It was just a little. It was a little weird to me. After I feel like it was this build up to something else. Like it. Yeah. I don't know. To me, it also just doesn't quite fit the ending. I feel like the whole time we're kind of in this like Christu is like a medium who, he's kind of a fraud, but actually he's not. He did actually have this big message or whatever. And we have this like skeptic who is like trying to prove the paranormal wrong. We have June and Lily who are she's a parapsychologist with a girl who is like possessed by the devil, and I feel like it's like, okay, it's like this spiritual like devil like paranormal like type stuff, and then the ending is kind of like it wasn't any of that. Once it gets into Jack's like psychology, like it just
which even
wasn't any
then
of that other stuff.
is is really just it. And in full transparency, I watched this movie, God, 2 weeks ago. So I'm not entirely, it's not super fresh in my memory, but it also feels like we get to the stuff with Jack and it's like a 2 or 3 minute montage and then it's over. Like it goes through this whole thing and it leads you to believe that this, the climax is this, you talk to the demon. And then even in the trailer, it shows the demon kind of like lunge at June. And then you're thinking like, oh, now paranormal shit's going to start happening. Now we're going to get into some scary paranormal shit. And it just doesn't. Like nothing that's super terrifying kind of happens. And then we get into the stuff with Jack where all of a sudden, I mean, don't get me wrong. The possession goes through where, Lily's head begins to like glow, which was also just kind of, I don't know, weird. Didn't it? None of it seemed like very intensely scary.
Yeah.
And then Gus, June, and Carmichael, kind of get killed. But again, there's no real like suspense to it. It just kind of it feels like it happens so quick, and
Yeah.
then it goes into Jack's like weird ayahuasca trip. Uh,
Him and Aaron
where he's
Rodgers been drinking cayenne water.
yeah, yeah. Well, it goes through everything, and then even reading through like the Wikipedia page where like it explains everything because watching it, like it goes through like the ceremony at the Grove, but it doesn't really spell out what all is happening the way that IMDb or Wikipedia make it seem like it's spelled out in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, but you kind of see the clip of the thing at the Grove where they're doing some sort of ceremony, and then it kind of cuts to him like talking with it, and then it's where Madeline then gets cancer and going through everything like that, and then him stabbing her, cutting out of his vision into him having stabbed Lily, and there's sirens coming, and it's just like it just feels like they got to the point of Lily becoming more like possessed and it becoming more of a paranormal demon possession movie, and then being like, we wrote all of this script up to this point and this is this huge climax. It's like, oh shit, we only have we were only given a budget to do whatever. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah. It yeah, it just kind of leaves me hanging, I feel like. I don't know. But that's not to take away, I guess, in my mind from the rest of the movie. I just feel like it didn't end how I would have liked it to end. I feel like the way that it sticks to the script when it comes to this like late night show premise is so good. Um, the way we like cut to commercial and like there's the jokes. We have I don't know necessarily like what they're called. I'm not a huge late night guy, but like I loved like Gus being the
Oh,
like
the sidekick.
sidekick. Yeah,
Yeah.
like him being the sidekick. He like that guy played that character so well, especially when like I loved when he goes and like says something to Leo and Leo's like, "Now put on that smile." And he's like kind of like, and he's like, "No,
Yeah,
no, no."
when he goes to Jack and he's like, this is fucked up, Jack. You need to cut this shit off. You need to knock this shit off. And then it's basically just like, go back out there, put your fucking cape on and smile, Gus. It's like
Yeah.
okay. It's just like defeated.
Yeah, like I feel like he did like his character's done really well. I mean, David as Jack is like the star of the show, obviously, but like actually the star of the show when it comes to like his performance. Um, I feel like everyone for the most part is pretty good. I feel like the guy who plays Christo is a little hammy, but I also just feel like that's kind of like the
But it
bit.
also feels, yeah, it feels very much like what that 70s mystic would have been, where it just seems like a bad actor being
Yeah.
a bad, you know what I mean, trying to pass off. But yeah, I agree. For the fact that this really was kind of like a cast of, for lack of a better term, it's a cast of unknowns. At no point
Yeah.
does it feel like you're watching like it doesn't feel like you're watching some sort of B-rate horror movie that Netflix bought just because they needed content back in their early 2010s. I do remember there being a ton of those types of movies where it's like, how the hell, there's no one you recognize and everything about it's bad, the acting's bad, but I mean, everything here was, I mean, none of it felt like a low budget production. outside of maybe kind of the special effects at the end, a little bit of it kind of felt
Yeah, the like
a little
lightning
rough.
effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I also don't know if they were going for something to look very 70s y, and that could have
Yeah.
just been it, and that's why it didn't look great. But I don't know. Um,
Yeah. But I feel like the most part, like people's like death. Well, besides Carmichael, I feel like June getting kind of like strangled and then like her throat like cut by that amulet. That was pretty. That was pretty good. It's a little
yeah,
scary, a little spooky.
yeah.
And then God, what happened to Gus? I forget what happened to Gus.
That's I'm trying to remember, and I cannot for the life of me.
Carmichael was
Uh,
the one. Like he's like melted basically. Um, what happens to Gus?
oh, never mind. It was a kind of a behind the scenes thing. Honestly, it looks more terrifying with it without the special features because it shows like the split open, like Lily's split open head, and
Yeah.
then like the a hooded face in green screen, and that looks more terrifying than the special effects did. So
I
yeah,
I
June
did
was the
I did
amulet.
like
Uh, Carmichael, yeah, is the like just
oh
tries to
they just
hand.
like I think he just cracks his neck when he tries to be like the power of Christ compel you. It just like cracks
That's
his
it.
neck
Yeah. Yep.
and he falls through the table. Uh, his wasn't that bad, but um, there was like the wife ghost showed up a couple times in the movie. That
Did you
was
notice that
that was
throughout?
I didn't notice throughout. I noticed like the first one or two, I guess, or the second one, I think it was. There's like at one point, I think it's when Chris Stew is talking to that family or something, or when he gets that first message, and it like behind Jack, it shows the ghost. That was the only one I saw, and then I went on like just on the trivia on IMDb a second ago. It was like, oh yeah, at this timestamp, there's one like earlier on in the movie. There's this at this timestamp. There's one in a mirror. There's one in a pocket watch, and I was like, what the fuck? I missed so much. I feel like I gotta go watch it.
Yeah, I saw a couple of them. I think I can't remember how many. I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing her in a TV, and I think in the mirror, and yeah, in the static on the TV monitor. That's the other time I really remembered seeing her. And then I do remember there was one, and I'm looking at it on IMDb. It's like a quick, like a real quick shot where they're doing like the piece by piece. And it's like in a quick one of the frames you see her, and then it's gone. And yeah, I do remember seeing like a couple of them and being like, I feel like now I have to rewatch and see if there's more. I think that was kind of a cool Easter eggy thing to see throughout the movie. No, I'm trying to think what other things that really kind of stood out. You hit the nail completely on the head for what my thought was on this, where it was like I enjoyed it. It wasn't like overly scary, but it just felt like we got to the end and then it was like June dead, Carmichael dead, Gus dead, cut into Jack's like montage of memory, and movie's over. It was just like I feel like we could have done something. I don't know what, but something could have been done a little bit. I think more interesting after the you know the possession and that's going on.
Funny. This trivia talks about how Carmichael mentions his friends Ed and Lorraine Warren declined his invitation to join him to do some ghost hunting at Amityville House. The Warrens actually did visit the house in March of 1976, famously declaring it to be a real haunting. At the request of WNEW in New York, James Randi and a psychic invited by the channel later visited the location. They originally arrived at the wrong house, with the psychic claiming that they merely being at the location where it happened was nearly overwhelming. The homeowner came outside and pointed them to the actual location, which was 2 blocks away. uh, I did like like I'm not like super in touch with like the 70s like pop culture, but I did really enjoy like those callbacks. That and they were like big enough and like somebody who's not crazy about the 70s would like get them. Like the Jimmy Carter stuff, the Warrens, especially if you're into horror movies. I mean so like the Conjuring series is all about the Warrens.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that was kind of a when I heard him say that, I was like, oh wait a minute, aren't they the ones that did all the yeah, the Amityville? They did like Annabelle or whatever, the haunted
yeah,
doll, a lot of those types of things. I was like, oh wait, hold on, I do know this. Yeah, I do always get a kick when they do the. I just liked all the kind of the time monologue type jokes and the things like that. Um, I loved the like the comebacks from the commercials, just
yeah.
like
How
the
it's all like
cheesy little
Halloween
like bat
themed. Yeah,
flying towards and every like the cheap practical effects. I thought were
yeah.
really cool.
The band was the band's like playing and the bats like spinning above them and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Gus trying to play the theremin. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it felt like a late night, like late 80s, 70s, 90s, like those like cheesy like late night shows. They did a really good job. Just like selling the bit, I feel like. Cuz that's honestly that's the big thing when you do in my opinion when you do like a found footage horror movie is one you have to sell the bit like like Blair Witch is a good example. Paranormal Activity is a good example of like, you know, these are college kids going to do this documentary. Oh, they get lost and like they don't know where they are. We've lost them. Like I'm sold on this Paranormal Activity. Oh, we've just moved into this house. Like, oh, this is interesting. Let's set up cameras and like capture what's happening to us. Like this, like
Cloverfield.
it. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's the one I
Cloverfield is.
remember. I remember that one being very much like people describing it as the next like Blair Witch, where it was like, did this actually happen?
Yeah, like you gotta like you sell the people on the bit or the premise. I feel like a benefit of having a found footage story, which is something that I like watching. A reason why I like found footage a lot of the times is like you're discovering things as people are discovering them, if that makes sense. Like, if you're watching the movie and something scary happens, the characters in the movie are reacting at the same time that you are. Like, oh shit, this happened, or they don't see it and you see it. That sort of thing. Um, Whereas in most other horror films, I feel like it's not necessarily the same. Like you're not real time discovering this thing. It's just, um, you know, I mean, you kind of, and a lot of it depends on like benefit of the doubt. I feel like too is the other thing where it's like, oh, who edited this found footage? Like,
Yeah,
oh, it's
you
convenient.
still have to. Yeah, you still have to suspend belief for a bit, but I think, like you said, it's that. But I also think just this movie's commitment to the bit made it work.
Yeah,
Because
because
a
I
lot of the
definitely feel like
times,
it could be cheesy as shit if they didn't stick with it. I feel like.
yeah. Well, and even I mean, even the actors and everything just married. I David Dasmalkian's like commitment to playing this, and it came across because he didn't come across as someone. I'm trying to think like a Letterman or a like a Leno who comes from like this stand-up comedy funny guy thing. He comes
Yeah,
across as being like this awkward radio guy who's now making the jump into tele. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he plays it very well as being that versus like I have to play this like I'm, the super cool, uh, you know, hip guy that everyone loves. And it's like, no, you're you're a far second. Maybe
yeah.
like you're the you're the leader of the pack, but you're the leader of the pack of like the next tier.
Yeah, and he does a good job too. I feel like the monologue is just this part that like stood out to me, but like I feel like he does a great job of like you know, he's seasoned, but he's also like he's not afraid to like show the behind the scenes of the show. Like and I feel like that is like when you're watching one of these shows or when you're watching something like this that is produced live where it's like oh like I can see behind the curtain like you grow your audience where so like when he's like talking about the jokes and he calls out Leo in the thing for this like Jimmy Carter joke. He's like, "Oh, really, Leo? That's like low hanging fruit." You're like that's something you could see, you know, like
That's a
I don't know,
Conan
like a
move,
Jimmy
a hundred
Fallon or
percent.
yeah, like Conan, like yeah, it's like that. Like that's what those hosts do, and that's where you're like, oh yeah, like he is just like a late night host that you would watch, you know, like
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely and again, it goes back to the entire cast. No one felt like it was not an actual broadcast from the 70s. None of it felt like it was phoned in or even that, like, they were trying to act too modern. Everyone felt like they really committed to this being this late night 70s feeling show. Um, yeah, I had a really good time watching it. I'm not gonna lie, peek behind the curtain into the podcast world. I had to make sure to monitor my 7 day trial period for AMC Plus to watch this movie. And then the day after, I make sure I cancel my AMC Plus goddamn membership. The fucking movie pops up on Hulu, and I'm sitting here going, son of a bitch. All I had to do was wait a week. I didn't have to go through any of the hassle. You
that's
shitting
okay.
me?
I told my wife today I signed up for the free trial of Hulu, and I was like, "Hey, I have Hulu for the month. If there's anything you want to watch on Hulu," she was like, "I have my sister's Hulu login, so like you could have just watched it on there." I was like, "All right, well, either way, I still have free trial for a month, so
Yeah,
if there's a
joke's on you. I'm watching a shit ton of stuff I want to watch, and I
yeah."
don't care.
And I got the ad version because I'm a goober, so you know what?
I have the ad version and I pay for it, so it's fine.
Hey, I mean the HBO Max, Hulu, Disney Plus bundle seems like a good deal. If that's
HBO Max is in there? Are sure? I mean
they have a
ESPN?
different one. No, they have one with HBO Max now.
How in the fuck did they do that?
I just, I don't know, man. Somebody's pulling strings.
Because I have it's ESPN, Disney, Hulu like package. I don't know how the hell they got Max in there. They're completely different companies.
Yeah, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max starting at $17 a month.
I really have to think about that because I don't necessarily need ESPN Plus. Although it is nice to be able to watch a couple, out of market college games. That's
Yeah, I will say,
which, if you're a fan of an out of market team, is kind of nice.
yeah. Or if you went to a directional Michigan college and you want to watch those games and they're never on, they were on TV today and they lost, but most of the time they're not. So, um,
Well, most of the time
yeah,
they are losing, but they're not on TV. Just to clarify for anyone listening, I can laugh because I sat through 3 years of going to games and watching this team go 1-10 or 1-11 every year.
hey, but they're halfway decent now.
Yeah, now that I've been gone for a decade.
Yeah, we didn't go during the fun football years. I mean, it's probably
No,
still lame
no.
to go to football games, but
I went during the Ron English years. So if anyone wants to figure out which directional school that is, just go ahead and do a
or why
cursory
Ron
Google
English got
search.
fired.
Also a fun read.
uh, uh, anything else on Late Night with the Devil. I don't know. I feel like it was kind of just. It was fun. That's my big thing. It was a fun watch. I wasn't necessarily scared. It was just the right amount of like spooky, creepy, unsettling. Uh, and I just had fun watching it. I had
I
to take a break because the baby woke up, but like I was like, damn, I wanted to finish this. Like it was good. Like,
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and then was a little let down. But again, most people I've talked to about this movie, I've recommended it.
yeah.
I've said it's good. It's not like it's not going to keep you up at night scary. If you're looking for
Which
something
some
that
people don't look for. I mean,
I
you'd
don't
say
need,
you don't really like horror, but like,
I don't need, like, I'm not going to sleep in 4 or 5 nights type of scary. This was good for me.
yeah.
Like I said, I would have liked a little bit more from the climax of the movie, but overall, yeah, I you know I enjoyed it. I was a fan. I probably will watch this movie again at some point. Don't know when, but we'll probably watch this again.
It would be fun. I feel like it would be fun at like a midnight screening with people. I
I
could
can
kind
see
of see
that.
this one kind of being like a midnight screening, and you're watching it, and people in the back notice the wife ghost, and it's like whoa, like you're hearing everybody around you kind of freak out a little bit. Like I feel like that would be fun.
Yeah. Or
Because
even just a
as
good,
someone
like,
who only saw her once,
or just a good, like, I'm not really a big person on, like, when you have a get together of people watching movies, but I know there
yeah,
are, I mean, I recommended this to my brother, who was having people over to watch scary movies. I'm like, oh, this one, it's new. It just came out. So a lot of people really don't know about it. But um, I will also say before we get into, I mean, I guess I can keep it during ratings or whatever, but I mean, it doesn't really spoil my review at all. But I think this movie is going to be a more of a cult movie. I think in the next couple years, even though because I mean, this movie's already been out for a year, and still people don't really know about it. I think within another, like, year or two, this is going to be one of those ones. It's like, how did we miss this? How did this not get
yeah.
like a major release? This is such a, I think it's going to blow up in the next couple years. And then I'm going to be like, oh,
I could see
if you like it, boy, do I have a podcast for you.
that. Wait, how have you not listened to the Cocktails and Classics episode on
Yeah.
Late Night?
Yeah.
You
What are
may
you
have missed
doing?
the movie, but how did you miss this episode of this podcast?
You may have missed this movie that has someone really famous in it. But how did you miss the podcast from two goobers who just bullshit for an hour?
We got two goobs in the Goob Squad this week. Ben and I had not seen this movie for the second week in a row, which is weird. You know, we don't normally do that, but here we are. Uh, Ben, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
It doesn't matter. If you want to
All right,
go ahead.
I'll go. Um, like I said, to kick this thing off, I was kind of hyped for this one. I hadn't seen much about it, and then I feel like it just kind of popped up, and it was like getting a little buzz. There's a decent little bit of information about it on the internet. People were like, "Hey, check out this movie!" Like, um, and because I feel like most of the times when a movie is distributed by Shutter or some of these like horror only like channels and stuff, they're usually not good. Like most Hulu exclusive like horror stuff that they do around Halloween, pretty buns. But this one, I watched the trailer and I was kind of like, all right, I think I can do this one. I think this one might be worth it. And the fact that it was getting positive praise was a good indicator. Um, And like we've said, the dedication to the bit is great. I think that, like we said, the little like title card, like coming back from commercial bits, the fact that it's kind of got this like filter and it's I don't think it's like 4x3 kind of like safe area for most of the movie, like it was an old broadcast. It's kind of looks like it's recorded on film like back in the day, and it's yeah, the dedication to the bit really sold the movie for me. Like I said, it's a fun watch, in the sense of like fun for like a horror movie. It's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of horror. Um, there's not like a ton of things that are like gonna keep you up at night, or this is super scary, or like, I mean, hell, the scene with like the devil coming through Lily is 5 7 minutes long, maybe, like, and that's might be the scariest bit of the movie. I like, if you're like scared about exorcism type stuff, like, and nothing crazy really happens. It's a little more unsettling, like when it's like, "Oh, I know you, Jack. I saw you in the tall trees," and you're kind of like, "Oh, wait a second." Um, I think they did, yeah, a great job of with the found footage and with the like show kind of sticking to the bit of like, oh, something's happening, oh, or like doing a couple like whip pans, or like weird edits to where like would seem like somebody messed up on the show. I think they did a good job of that as well. um, and like we said, the only letdown really to me is the ending, just that it doesn't fit, or it doesn't reach the climax quite that you want. I feel like I wanted something more, something a little bit like more in the lines of like what they set up of like this supernatural horror, and I feel like we didn't necessarily get that at the end. Not saying that's a terrible thing, but it just kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Um, but it's fun. Like Ben said, I can see myself watching this again, and like I said, a midnight screening would be fun, or with friends, for some of these, like the moments where you're like, oh shit, what? Um, would be fun to have others around for those. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's quite a 8. Um, it's fun. I feel like if we fix the ending, I think it would be higher at like an 8 or a 9, maybe, depending on how good the ending was. But it just felt a little rushed, a little underwhelmed by the ending. But it's a fun movie. I would highly recommend this one, if you're looking for something in this realm of like spooky.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add on to that. Hit the nail. I also had it at a 7 for almost the exact same reasons. Yeah, I think a different or a change to the ending that maybe gave a little bit more in, and maybe it just leaned a little bit more. And what's I can't believe I'm about to say this. If it leaned more into the stereotypical supernatural horror movie, I think it would have been more enjoyable, or at least maybe up to a little bit more of the scare factor and a little bit more of my opinion kind of the ending, uh, as opposed to where and how it ended, um, this time around. Uh, I'm going through and looking at pictures real quick, and I will say, like Dylan said, the second possession where kind of shit hits the fan, it's only like 5 to 7 minutes, um, and really nothing that really happens. I mean, it's not, and like I said, I'm not a horror person. Uh, I would say of horror, my least favorite is like the ultra gore stuff. This doesn't really. get very gory. I mean, even like June's death with the being choked with the necklace, you get like a little bit of the blood around the neck from where it's kind of choking her, but there's not like, you know, oh god. I mean, Christu gets like the bloody nose in that, but then you just hear that he left in an ambulance. Um, Carmichael, I mean, just kind of slowly like melts away. Even his isn't really like super weird. I guess maybe like the scene with Gus with the worms maybe is like a little freaky and maybe a little unnecessarily gory, but where I was going with this is they've got a still frame of Lily like with their head split open with the stuff going on. It looks so much more terrifying in like the still frame photo than it did while watching the movie because it kind of cuts so fast and everything's moving so quick. You don't really see anything that's really that intimidating or scary. Um, but all of that roundabout to say that, yeah, I completely agree. I would give this a 7 out of 10. Um, I do recommend it. Like I said, I think it's a good get together movie if you're going to get together and watch scary movies because of the fact that I don't think anyone who's going to come to a scary movie hangout, but like might be on the fence of like, I don't really love them, but I'll go. This would be one that they're going to be like, okay, yeah, that was good. Not overly terrifying, not super freaky, but like that was good. That was a good fit. Um, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think there's anyone that's going to be like, I didn't sleep last night because I watched this movie.
Um, Interesting. So on a quick little research on this movie, just before we go, that there's a lot of backlash apparently because of the use of AI within the film. The things that I actually commented on that I liked the were coming back were apparently made with AI, um, and a lot of people did not like that, um, which I does kind of change my opinion on them. Apparently, they did say that the original concepts were created with AI, and then they later went in and changed them up and edited them. But the like we're coming back or um, like welcome back to Night Owls type, like the Halloween interstitials were done with AI, so that pissed a lot of people off.
So wait, hold on. What exactly was AI used for?
The
Which like
inter-
which parts?
like the like we're coming back or like we'll be back type, like the broadcast like interstitials, like when they
Oh,
cut to commercial and out of commercial. Yeah,
like the stills there. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, well that is kind of frustrating cuz
I
that's
mean
something
that's
that
like
was
easily given to a graphic designer or
yeah. As someone who
could be
does
done.
graphic design work, like that, yeah, that does kind of grind my gears.
Yeah, but the people's statement is in conjunction with our amazing graphics and production design team, all of whom worked tirelessly to give this film the 70s aesthetic we have always imagined. We experimented with AI for 3 still images, which we edited further and ultimately appear as very brief interstitials in the film. We feel incredibly fortunate to have had such a talented and passionate cast, crew, and producing team to go above and beyond and help bring this film to life. We can't wait for everyone to see it themselves.
I don't know. I guess I would need to see and I guess I would need to see like what did AI give you and what is the final.
Yeah, what is actually in there? I feel like
Yeah.
that. I feel like I need to like see it again and really see like give it a better look, cuz they're only in there for like seconds.
Yeah.
That's like the big thing. But like I want to, see it and be like Oh, like that's definitely AI. That doesn't look good.
Like I said, I don't think
Uh,
any of it looked just like hugely AI, but it could have been one of those things where maybe they just generated like, you know, here it kind of gave us like a basic idea of what to look for, and then we took that and changed, made sure we used a more 70s looking font, and we changed this graphic or that graphic. I still don't love the idea of it's just like, hey,
yeah,
rather than, going to our graphics team and being like, hey, we need these kind of stills. Can you guys come up with something that, whatever, to just be like, hey, we need something for these stills. This is what AI did. Can you fix this to make it look better?
yeah,
Or can you recreate this to, whatever? I don't love it. As someone who does, creative work in that, yeah, I'm not thrilled, but I also was recently at a conference and heard the following quote: AI AI won't replace staff members, but people who use AI will replace people who don't.
yeah. I mean,
So,
I can
I mean,
see.
especially I feel like in the creative space like that, I can see where, you know, uh designers might go to some sort of thing and be like, "Hey, give me 3 mock-ups for X." And then take those 3 and rework them into something, but Um, I think a lot of people are going to start using it to clear the brainstorming phase, like the writer's block stage of things. I think that's going to become a tool that a lot of people, and I say tool, but my fear is I think it's going to become more so a crutch that people are going to start relying on a lot.
Yeah, the problem. I feel like I don't know. Like I don't have a problem with AI. I have a problem with AI taking away work or jobs from people. That's the big thing. Like as a tool, hey, that's cool. Like I played around with AI, Chat GTP, and Bard, and all that. I've even played around with the generative fill or whatever it is on Adobe Photoshop, where you can like create select a portion of a drawing
Yeah,
and be like, I want a cowboy hat on this thing, and then it'll put a cowboy hat on it. Like
yeah.
I can see where a generative AI, I don't really see a point on in Photoshop. Like I don't see how it's gonna help anyone. I see all these things where people are like, "Oh, like check out this cool thing I did," and I'm like, "This never works like that for me." But uh, like I don't know. I
Yeah,
just don't see.
I'd have a much faster time taking a PNG of a cowboy hat and photoshopping it on myself and just doing the work.
And it
It
would
might
probably
take
look better
I'd say,
because
yeah, it'll probably take more time, but it's going to look cleaner and better overall. But
and the fact that like when you're using AI as a creative tool, it is it's having to draw inspiration from something, and what they're feeding that is just other people's work, other people's like livelihoods, and
or
then spending that
unfortunately,
on its own.
or unfortunately now what's going to start feeding into it is just more a generative AI,
That's gonna be shit. But
and which is going to make the quality of it just go down. But I mean, that's, you know, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? You know, I've heard people say we're like in 5 to 10 years, the debate of in 5 to 10 years, some schlub like me is going to be able to go onto my computer and, type in a prompt and get a 90-minute movie with whatever actors I want it to have about whatever thing I want it to be about.
Google has something now where you can feed in a Wikipedia article and it'll create a podcast based off that Wikipedia article for you, with AI hosts and all that. Um, we really
Shit.
are in the end times.
Oh
Uh,
God, they're gonna take my voice, my terrible, terrible voice.
well, the thing for it is like, if you don't learn from reading, or like, like, here's another way for you to be able to learn. But I'm like, I just see that's going straight into somebody's going to be some fucking shit company is just going to be pumping out garbage podcasts based off of like half written Wikipedia articles, bumping like
I
it's an
mean, they're
easy way
gonna
to
do
just
it.
pump out shit. Like,
I mean, they're also what they're just gonna do is take the top, you know, they're gonna take the Joe Rogan podcast, pump it into AI until they get something that's like, hey, uh, not being Joe Rogan, but give me like as similar type content as possible. Try to get as many listenership as possible, generate ad revenue until someone realizes that wait a minute, this is just fucking, this is all fake shit. But at that point, whatever scam bot at that point will have made enough money that it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine. We can
Do
use that,
you?
right? Did I keep that short enough? Also, is my shitty singing bad enough that it's okay to use?
Well, I'm just gonna clean it up with some AI real quick. Hey, uh, check us out next time. Uh, as we do something probably not horror related. It's gonna be November or December. We're done with spooky shit, right? Um,
We're out. Although, maybe before the end of the year, we'll have to find a time to release a special pod. Um, we ran out of time with spooky season. There's a certain thing that we promised the audience more than a year ago that we
oh,
would do.
that'll be
We
that'll be
didn't do
everyone's
it.
Christmas present. That'll be everyone's Christmas present.
Maybe we'll put feelers out, see if we can get some more people on the podcast to come back and be a part.
Uh, I still have to write my doctoral thesis, so
I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't go through and do my I'm not gonna call it a thesis. I'm gonna call it my prosecutorial duty of making sure I'm prepared to absolutely rip it to shreds.
my rebuttal. um,
But I think there's two people that used to do this podcast that I bet we could probably get them, and I know which side each one of them would want to be on uh, for this case. So maybe that'll be our Christmas pod, our final or like our finale for the year.
yeah.
Maybe we'll go ahead and check back in with Hubie.
Check out the show notes. Hit up the Casker links. Make yourself a Devil's Night cocktail and get some a Bacardi Gold. Check us out over on our website, www.cocktailsandclassicspod.com. Check out everything we have over there, including our newsletter on the rocks. And you can get some movie trailers, podcast updates, movie news, everything, trivia directly into your inbox. Um, Check us out over on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Follow us over there. Share us with your friends and family. Subscribe. Leave a rating. Leave a review. Anything. It helps us, please. Uh, and as always, watch responsibly.